Hello, everybody. My name is Caitlin Fall. I'm from Group 3, and today we will be discussing the Groupthink Theory. On a chilly January morning in 1986 in Florida, NASA was preparing to launch the Challenger. Unsure glances were thrown across the control room as the space shuttle began to lift off. White smoke plumed out of the side of the Challenger. An explosion, they said. It could have been prevented. Lives could have been saved. After the shock passed over, several investigations went underway. It was found that there were several problems that were brushed off before the launch. The O-ring seal was defective. The team never tested O-ring seals at cold temperatures. Whose fault was it? Who could be blamed for the deaths of all 7 passengers? What if it was the entire group's fault? And the group completely failed to check off all safety protocols. Why would they proceed with doubt? One answer to that is due to groupthink and the several symptoms it holds. We will examine how groupthink has occurred over history and the effects it had on political and business decisions. We will then see how groupthink can benefit society as well. After all, they say teamwork makes the dream work. Let's dig a little deeper into what groupthink is.
After a failed attempt of a rocket launch, Irving Janis came to a conclusion on how this mistake could happen. Over time, this theory has sought out for because of the several failed attempts groups across the world have made. Whether it's nerves, being indecisive, or people just don't want to speak up, this theory has made quite a mark in time. The groupthink theory signifies how a group can make a terrible decision in a matter of seconds, depending on the time crunch. During this time, a group has to come to a unanimous decision and set aside beliefs and opinions. This isn't just an occurrence with the groupthink theory. There come symptoms on how it occurs, and there are 8 symptoms in total. In the many cases where the groupthink theory is applied, there have to be symptoms in order to determine if this is why the bad decisions are made in the first place. The first symptom is illusions of vulnerability. Second, collective rationalization. Then, belief in inherent morality of the group. Third is out. Then, direct pressures on dissenters. Self-censorship. Illusions of unanimity, and mind guards. All these have a specific reason on why groups are pressured into this. Another problem with the groupthink theory is that group members want peace and no disagreements with each other. This essentially leads to making dangerous decisions that can cost a mission, just like what happened to the NASA astronauts. A group cannot come to agreement on something is already a sign of red flags. In some instances, this isn't done on purpose, but is the result of panic. In conclusion, groupthink can be avoided as well. This theory of groupthink doesn't always happen in these instances. By planning out steps ahead and coming to an agreement, bad decisions can be avoided.
The result of panic is quite detrimental, as seen in several events throughout history. The groupthink theory was first brought up by Irving Janis in 1972. He noticed that political groups were making poor decisions on cases, and they were coming to poor conclusions as well. He observed this primarily with political groups in several case studies, including Bay of Pigs, Pearl Harbor, North Korea, Vietnam, the Marshall Plan, the Cuban Missile Crisis, Watergate, the Iran-Contra affair, and attempts to save hostages from Iran. For example, the Bay of Pigs invasion of 1961 was an attempt to take out the Cuban government by invading several Cuban bases. The CIA and military formulated a plan during the Eisenhower administration. Kennedy was briefed on that plan, and later, after his inauguration, Kennedy approved of the plan. And Holarchy in the Bay of Pigs Invasion by Garlow, MPA, RDH, explains the conflict some people had. As it turned out, there were people who had silently questioned the invasion. However, they did not voice their dissenting views and allowed the so-called experts to proceed. The military leaders were already invested in their plan, thereby creating bias. People were not offering diverse ideas or opinions. They were allowing the leaders to make decisions. They were conforming to the group's ideas, groupthink. Janus realized groupthink wasn't only with politics. He noticed that this was happening in the business industry as well. For example, the decision to market Edsel by the Ford Motor Company was a bad decision due to it being ugly and inexpensive during a recession. The decision to launch the Challenger by NASA and other suspicious business activity from Beechnut and E.F. Hutton. For example, with the Challenger disaster, the booster rocket manufacturer, Morton Thiokol, disagreed with NASA regarding the cold temperatures on the launch date. According to Organizational Behavior and Disaster, a study of conflict at NASA by Dmitriev of Chevron Texaco, a NASA culture that gradually began to accept escalating risk, and a safety program that was largely silent and ineffective. This demonstrates a symptom of groupthink, that a leader may unknowingly constrain a group. Today, there are more instances in which groupthink comes up, including corporeal settings, which lead to more people to accept groupthink in corporate settings.
Groupthink is an occurrence whereby a group comes to a unanimous decision about a possible action despite the existence of facts that point to another correct course of action. Groupthink is important because it helps all of its team members explore, manage, and risk. Groupthink gives all of the members a strong sense of we when it is being used. Every member of the group, when using groupthink, tries to maintain harmony as well. When working in a group setting, groupthink is the most quick and efficient way to get a project done on time. An example of groupthink is the outbreak of COVID-19 back in 2020. Many countries' governments used their executive power to enforce lockdowns to help stop the spread of the virus. Countries and continents like New Zealand and Australia used the power of groupthink to save many lives and to stop the spread of COVID-19, and they didn't even see any outbreaks in the month of June of 2020, and they still have low numbers today, despite the fact of other countries like the US and India struggling to maintain the virus.
The groupthink theory shows how the onset of panic and an attempt to make a quick decision within a group can result in a forced group decision. And that may not be the best decision after all for everybody collectively within the group. Groupthink theory can happen within a crisis or even just a time crunch. The groupthink theory has symptoms as to why this happens, which can include having a group member within the group being scared to voice their own opinions due to maybe anxiety, and also a history of failures such as the Bay of Pigs invasion. Although it does have its rap sheet for failures, it did contribute to the precautions taken within America for COVID-19. Although the groupthink theory has failures, it is helpful in creating a sense of harmony and putting a group together and also making decisions on time.